Ladies and gentlemen, the show we've all been waiting for, Paranormal Buzz Radio is proud to present REP Paranormal and Friends with your hosts, Kim Purvis and Allison Robinson. Live every Thursday night on Spreaker, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Be sure to check out their Facebook page, REP Paranormal Busters.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode from REP Paranormal and Friends. We have a very special guest that's going to be on here. I'll give them an introduction here shortly, but this is something new that we have never talked about on the show before, so it's going to be an awesome topic, and so I hope you guys all enjoy. But our guest is kind of known as the Vortex Detective, and you've written many books. Welcome, Dan Shaw, to the show. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. I am super excited about this. This is a whole new topic for us. I've seen some shows talking about it on TV and things like that, but I've never actually sat down and researched it all. So how did you come about all these vortexes? How did you get into this?
Well, that's fair to ask me first, but I should start perhaps by saying that I consider a vortex to be a paranormal place.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so any place that seems to contribute to paranormal or psychic activity, yeah? So I did not just fall into a vortex, but I have a lifelong compulsion to explore new places, and never really felt at home in my own family of origin, and happened to start to meditate around age 7. Started meditating and having psychic and paranormal experiences. I found a way to go into a meditative state by gazing at a very dim light. And then around age 14, I had an encounter with a UFO. And at that point, I knew I wasn't crazy, but I knew that if I shared that with people that they would think that I was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept that to myself for years. But that moment, of course, was transformative for me. And I knew that after that I had to question everything, that essentially everything was open to question. There were no established truths at that point. My consensus reality was just totally shattered. So I was then I was not didn't become obsessed with UFOs, but I knew that I didn't understand what the meaning of that encounter was. So that was always, at least in the back of my mind, that there was some broader reality going on, and I definitely felt like I wanted that ship to come take me away to my real home.
Mm-hmm.
And in my early 20s, I got together with a woman, and we conceived a child, and we wanted to have natural childbirth, and that took us down rather miraculous route to where we ended up in Austin, Texas, studying alchemy, extraordinary healing tools and techniques and alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
So So I was a student of alchemy for a couple of years when life circumstances totally changed for me. I had, at the moment, a traumatic separation from my wife and then 2 young children.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, in those couple of days following that fracture, that disruption,
Mm-hmm.
then this information about Vortex maps, the Vortex information was essentially handed to me on a silver platter. It wasn't something I sought out exactly, but
Mm-hmm.
I was in the Mount Shasta area. I was had the idea to go from there to Tahoe, and the woman who I was taking refuge with, the community I took refuge at,
Mm-hmm.
in Northern California. It's called Alcyone. And Galadriel said, have you seen how Tahoe and Shasta are connected? And that was the moment when my focus shifted from a broader alchemy to a narrower alchemy, which is geomancy, which to me is all the same principles, foundation. It's a subset to me. Geomancy, earth magic, is a subset of alchemy. So in the ideal sense, alchemy is about perfecting ourselves, our physiology, and our psyche.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same for me. The same is true of working with these earth energies, just like we would work with our subtle energy body, or acupuncture, or Reiki, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
For our physical body, there's this unity between our physical body and the planetary energy, the geophysical energies, the electromagnetic field, and all the other energies in which we are immersed. So long story, that's the abbreviated version there, but I began studying these vortexes, as I later came to call them vortexes, but these paranormal places. And I took it as, this was delivered to me as a gift from my guides and angels.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take it on as my mission. It's not my day job, but
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing else I'd rather talk about than paranormal places. And part of the
Right.
way I do research is I talk to people like you who are you're in your place and you have your experience. And I want to be sure and ask questions of you as well. Please, if you have experience of, and everyone does,
Mm-hmm.
but they perhaps haven't identified it exactly as, this is like a vortex, it's a paranormal place. You must have some similar experience of that, whether it's a haunted graveyard, hospital,
Mm-hmm.
battlefield, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So please, if you have some experience, I'm sure it would elucidate the subject.
Oh, we've had quite a few experiences. Since we go out to different locations, where something tragic or sad may have happened, or nothing at all has happened there, but we still get these experiences that we cannot explain, like Malvern Manor. We've heard disembodied voices. We can't explain how this doll came flying feet first off of a dresser at us.
When its head is heavier than its body. So
Yeah, it's top heavy, but it came feet first and the legs shattered off the doll.
But now,
yeah.
stop short. Sorry.
Nope, you're okay.
To associate that now, like Melbourne,
Mm-hmm.
Melbourne, that's a place.
Yep.
Associated with a place. Those spirits there
Mm-hmm.
seem to be, the vortex, the paranormal aspect seems to be man-made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some element of like magic and the mental etheric realm
Mm-hmm.
manifesting, and
Mm-hmm.
and we want to note that, but also contrast it with places where it's the earth itself that seems to be generating
Mm-hmm.
paranormal. So go on.
Well, I mean, another place is the Cambry House. Now, the energy outside there on the land is very strong, and it feels very old to me. But we also know, after being there, that it was some Native American land, too. But you can definitely feel a strong older presence there, which felt very different. I don't know how to quite explain it, but that's what it felt like. Like, it felt like more the energy was coming from outside than the actual building itself. If
Very
that
good,
makes any
very
sense to you.
Oh, for sure. You're talking to the right guy in those terms. For sure.
Yes.
So when we're detecting vortexes, we're looking for places where there was human activity, where humans were attracted because it had some spectacular natural features, perhaps, maybe cliffs or mountaintops or whatever it might be. And we're also looking at the landscape itself, what's on the surface. We can see what's on the surface, and what we can't see below the surface as well. So when we go to investigate a place, I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of background noise.
Oh,
It's the cat.
it might be her cat.
Oh, okay. Well, I know there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, no.
She being a pain in the butt.
Gotcha. So just to pick up there,
Yeah.
as you go from place to place and you are investigating the place, you're naturally interested in essentially the history of human activity there. And then there's prehistory as well, because maybe we don't have the oral tradition or the memory of what the indigenous people were doing there. But I would suggest that if you consider the possibility that you have what you need to sense the energies of the place itself, of the land itself, you can heighten those abilities. You can strengthen your sensitivity to that. You can drink spring water there if that's potable water. You can eat local edibles. You can focus as you breathe in the air. You can visualize breathing in the colors of the landscape there. You can notice that the natural environment there is all in these harmonic geometric proportions that help harmonize your brain waves. You can take off your shoes as you enter in a sacred place and connect electrically to the ground there and get a profoundly different, a more connected experience of the place. So there's kind of a whole toolkit available to you to take a look at the landscape itself. You can look at magnetic maps. You can consider what kinds of energies, electrical energies and other kinds of energies, seismic energies, are running through the ground, how any kind of surface or subsurface water might be influencing the situation. And then the place itself and its relationship, the shape of the place itself, and then how it might fit into larger patterns of places. So those are all great vortex, what I consider vortex markers that may not completely, not sufficiently, but partly explain why the certain paranormal events are happening at a certain place.
Kind of like, places that have bodies of water that run next to it, or like they say limestone, things like that. Can that produce those type of vortexes? Can those help with the energies as well?
I became interested in vortexes some 30 years ago now, and then subsequently went and got a degree in geography so I could hopefully better understand and explain what's going on. I consider what I'm doing to be the science behind Earth magic. So when we look at any kind of landscape, if there are all kinds of contributors to the overall electromagnetic field, which is highly complex. So, for example, limestone, while we don't think of it like quartz crystal, it's not. We don't think of it as being a particularly energetic material there. It does tend to dissolve very readily, and so you might more likely have kind of underground passages of water. And we think of seawater as being, it's salty. It's going to be there's going to be electrical currents in the water itself, as well as the water is going to be not magnetic itself, but it's going to be receptive to the magnetic properties of the surrounding environment. So, and we know this complex relationship between electricity and magnetism, where if you have the electrons moving, you create a magnetic field and vice versa. So as we, since our cellular body, our electromagnetic field, by whatever name, aura, whatever you want to call it, chakras, since we are immersed in this tumultuous, churning sea of electromagnetism, we're not separate from it. We're unified with it, and we are sensitive to it. It affects our physiology, everybody in different ways, but we can, some people will sense it like, ooh, it feels colder or warmer, or some people feel like a tingling. Some people might feel like a magnetic push or pull, but we have magnetite in every cell of our brain in minute amounts, and then in greater amounts in this area here, sinuses, our third eye area, greater amounts of magnetite. So we, just like birds and bees and fish, have a mechanism to potentially to sense these magnetic and electromagnetic fields. So as we expose ourselves, as we move from one environment to another, as the energy changes, we're liable to be able to sense that, and it's liable to have an effect on our psyche, on our psychic abilities, on our emotions, our physiology.
Okay.
Yeah. So subsurface features. You can look at geologic maps, and you can find ore and mineral deposits. Those will have an effect not just on the electromagnetic field, but on the gravity field. So some of my fellow Vortex researchers have found that looking at the magnetic maps is very useful. You can actually see, just like you would see on a map showing elevations, you can see different intensities of various components of the magnetic field. And for example, the Santa Cruz Mystery Spot is a tourist attraction that is a genuine electromagnetic anomaly. It's very near a magnetic high in the Santa Cruz Mountains there. So it's a very, the electromagnetism, the geophysics, to me, doesn't fully explain vortexes, because there's this component of magic and consciousness, but it's a very rich place to begin the discussion or to start to do research.
Okay, very nice. So with all these energies that you're talking about now, and you said you can kind of tell when, these energies might change. When I go into a place, sometimes I can feel the hot and cold, but sometimes around other people, if I get around other people, like they give off, I don't know what kind of energy it could possibly be, but I start to get really lightheaded or dizzy. And sometimes different places have that as well. Now, would that be something to deal with? Or what would you say would cause that?
Well, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that the people themselves are influencing the phenomenon. Of course, we have the observer effect, right?
Yeah.
So for several seasons, I was a guide at the Montana Vortex.
Okay.
And so I was there over a long period of time, long enough to observe, and doing repeated experiments throughout the day, long enough to observe that there was these cyclic time cycles of the vortex phenomena, and also long enough to see that when some people came in, they seemed to heighten the effect, and some people just seemed to shut it down. And so I have this direct experience of how people do influence the vortex itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So and people, I sincerely believe that the most powerful vortex in the world is our own heart, and in many ways, it's obvious. The blood is vortexing through the muscles there. The blood is carrying iron. And iron is a magnetic mineral there. And let's say the folks at Heart Math Institute would agree, that the heart has a profound impact on everything around it. As you come into vicinity of another person, you two are not separate. Your electromagnetic fields are going to be overlapping. You're going to be influenced by that person. And in the same way that we are influenced by our environment around us, because it's not a handshake relationship at a distance, but it's a relationship of unity.
Mm-hmm.
The place is also influenced by our presence there.
Okay. So our energies could influence when we go to some location. We could actually be influencing that area to be more heightened with activity.
I would say you can't avoid influencing the place. If you go in, let's say with shoes on, with insulative soles, you're going to essentially have less of an influence on the place. The electromagnetic field changes with elevation. Yeah, just like your lightning is more likely to strike a higher place.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in with shoes off, if you make an electrical connection to the ground, then essentially your electrical field is just like a bump of dirt, and it influences the electromagnetic field around you differently than if you're going in with insulated soles. You're going to have a different experience.
Okay.
There's no separation between you and the place, and it'd be essentially impossible for you to not to influence it.
Mm-hmm.
Even sitting where you are, thinking about the place, you're liable to influence it because you're not separate from that place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Distance is no object.
Okay. So if we go outside and ground ourselves, that could also influence the area too. Like sometimes when I go out and ground myself, after that, I notice that sometimes maybe the activity might decrease.
That is a very interesting, for me, and very interesting observation.
Uh-huh.
I'm not quite sure how to interpret that, but you need to be aware as you go into a place that, hey, the energy I'm feeling here, it might be the place itself. Maybe I'd feel better if I just remove myself 20 feet, 50 feet. I might feel better. So to be aware of that as you go into a place, and also be aware that, okay, this is going to affect me differently at different times. I have my own biological cycles, and the place has its own biological cycles: sun, moon, stars, whatever else, tides. And so to go in with the self-awareness that, feels good now, but, if that shifts,
Right.
then I just need to go to another place.
Right. Yep. And that's typically what I do. But once I come in, then I've just noticed that, and I didn't know if it's because I know, like at the Cambry house, we had asked for some protection and guidance, and after that, when we went back, I noticed that everything had kind of decreased. So I didn't know if like maybe I was influencing it with my energy to begin with, or if it was somebody else, or I don't know how to quite explain it, but it was just really bizarre because the last couple times we've gone somewhere, after I go outside and ground myself, it tends to decrease. Like there's like nothing.
Wow. Well, super hard to do a control experiment where you're like, okay, in this situation, I'll do this, and the next I'll do that. And it's kind of similar, same thing with vortexes themselves, because if you have some instrument to, for example, measure the electrical field going through the soil, there's how do you zero out all the confounding factors there? You're going to come back every year on the solstice, or are you going to figure, how are you going to do the statistical analysis to zero out that confounding factor? It's impossible. We are the great experiment.
Yes, yeah. I would agree with that. I would agree. I just didn't know if that had some kind of effect on it. If you ground yourself with that, the earth or the land around it, if that could, affect what happens in the actual location itself. So,
yep. What I would say is, if you wanted to conduct an experiment, I might suggest that you find a location near flowing water. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then you can actually run a copper wire.
Okay.
Put one end in the and an uninsulated copper wire would be preferable. Put one end in the flowing water. Yeah. And then when you're having the experience in the midst of an experience, you might then touch that copper wire, which would be profoundly grounding because the other end's in flowing water. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see what impact that might have. It'd be very much like a switch you could turn on and then off
Mm-hmm.
to a degree when you
Okay.
let go of the.
Oh, that'd be kind of interesting to do.
So you can. Sorry.
Nope, you're good. Go ahead.
Well, you can see in the Vortex research, there's definitely, it's a two-part equation because we have ourselves and then we have the place, and there's so many components to the electromagnetic field just in itself, and then there's the, again, consciousness and the element of magic.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go into a place, you're going in. It's very much like a pilgrimage. I think I can say. You're going in to perhaps meet someone or to experience some energy. I mean, the analogy between like going to Lourdes or Compostela or something, it's very similar. You have an intention, you've set up a time, you've prepared, you've traveled, you've maybe undergone some hardships of a pilgrim, and so you. Even before you leave home, the moment you conceive of, I'm going to this place, you begin a kind of a ceremony to create what it is you're intending. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if it were me, I tend to be very cautious about like I don't have a big list of haunted places that I've been or that are on my bucket list. And when I go to an energetic place. I'd like to think I go in with a very light touch. I'm going in not with the intention to intervene, as some people do, to send spirits back to the light or to balance the energy necessarily. I can't help doing that to a degree because I'm going in with this sacred intention. But generally, I'm of the leave no trace school, and if anything, I'll go in and I'll take a garbage bag so I can bring some trash out with me. So that's the one way that I sanctify the place. So I would say doubly cautious or conscious of what are your intentions in going in this place. You're essentially, if I may say, you're going in there to encounter yourself. There's something in yourself that you hope to derive from the experience, and maybe there's some desire that hasn't been satisfied yet that you're hoping to satisfy because you keep repeating the experience. It just seems like any other experience that people keep repeating, like they're watching reruns on TV or whatever it is. There's something that you hope to derive from that. So I would encourage you to really consider, like, okay, what's going to satisfy this need of mine? What is it that I'm hoping to achieve or intending to create there? And there's a chance, might shift your perspective on what it is you're doing going into these, seeking out these experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I've just never thought of it that way. I mean, we just go into these locations trying to just figure out their stories, but some energies just seem to have a different effect on me. I tend to kind of channel other things that are not necessarily there sometimes, is what I've been told. So I just didn't know if it was my energy there that was causing these things. I mean, it doesn't happen every time, it just happens occasionally. So it's kind of random. It's just, I just didn't know if that had something to do with the energies around there, outside, or something, my own personal energy. If that makes sense.
It's definitely hard to sort out those tangled threads.
Yeah, right.
Of what are you bringing to it and what's actually there.
Right.
Because I am a believer in magic and ceremony, I would say that, in your preparation for going to these places, that you can meditate on, well, what's the what is the benefit that I seek to derive from going to the place? Are you going? Some people might be going there in service to the spirits who are, let's say, trapped on this plane.
Right.
However, people are phrasing that, and then and there's a part of that that is self-serving, in the enlightened self-interest sense, hopefully. And so I like to think that, I'm talking about myself. I'm projecting myself onto you, of course, because what else can we do?
Right.
We're not separate. We're the same, same being. So I put a place out in the distance, out in front of me, that I'm thinking, okay, I really want to see the Grand Canyon or X, whatever it is. And I like to remind myself that whatever benefit that I seek to derive from going to this exotic location that I've, I can derive those same benefits immediately right where I am, whether it's connecting to the earth or exploring the psychic realms. What I want people to know is that the vortexes are available to them right where they are. Everywhere there's these energies, these infinite energies that are available to us for our psychic opening, for harmonizing the planet, for healing our bodies. So, pick your next destination, and you might see how much benefit you derive before you even leave home.
Oh, okay, very nice. That's one thing. Yeah, I've tried to meditate, but I feel like my brain is just always constantly, going. Like it never shuts off. It doesn't shut off when I sleep. I'm constantly. How do I get to that mindset to be able to do a meditation? Like, it's something I've wanted to do and I've tried, but it's like my brain just can't. It's like going 1,000 miles an hour, and I can't get it to.
I think 80% of us have that experience, that we're meditating because we really need to meditate, not because we just drop into that state so easily. I find it's very useful to broaden my definition of what meditation is. So often people, they'll be in the zone doing their cooking or their knitting or whatever it is, but they don't associate playing chess, whatever it is, but they don't associate that with meditation so much. So I think it's helpful to broaden out what we think of as meditation, and you can, perhaps it's your yoga as an active meditation, or perhaps you're more of a visual, gazing at a candle, something like that. That might be better, or you might think of a technique where you have essentially a 4-square room or building, and you've got a different piece of fruit in each of the 4 corners, and you're going from one corner, one piece of fruit, to another, and you're focusing on these 4 different things in sequence. That can be a more active, kind of engaging kind of a meditation that kind of distracts the monkey mind a little bit. And there's these places, these vortexes, these paranormal places. These are exquisite places to support you in your developing your psychic abilities. So when you're going to these places, I would expect that part of it is, it's a cheap seminar. You are honing your psychic abilities. And some people might be using a pendulum or dowsing rods, or some people might be using no device at all. But again, honing our psychic abilities.
Right. Yep. We kind of do that a little bit. We use our senses when we go.
I like to sit in a room by myself and just feel the room out a little bit before doing anything.
Right. So yeah, that's good to know that there's different types of meditation. So maybe if I do a more active one, that one might be a little bit easier for me, because like I said, my mind is always racing. I'm always on the go. So something that I could do might help me a little bit, I'm thinking, to clear my mind, especially before we go to a location like that.
Excuse me. One of the things
okay.
that you can do is you can focus on maps.
Oh,
Find
okay.
these images of these maps.
Uh-huh.
And this is, let me see if I can get you a better view of this. This is the map of Western North America,
Uh-huh.
the Vortex map. It's 19 points form a nearly perfect circle around the
Wow.
Grand Tetons. Every one of those points is the largest mountain or body of water in its region.
Uh-huh.
It includes Shasta, Tahoe, Sedona, Rainier, Lake Louise, etc. So knowing any of those points on the periphery, then you can draw that circle around the Grand Tetons essentially on any map.
Oh, okay.
And when you see this one at vortexmaps.com,
Right.
you'll see that it's very much like a mandala, that it's a circle composed of 19 smaller triangles.
Oh, okay.
And while I'm at it, mentioning my website, I'll mention
Yes.
that I'll answer every email. If folks email me, when folks email me at ask@danshaw.com, then I'll send them a free ebook.
Oh, wow. Cool. Okay.
One of my ebooks from my website. It's a downloadable book. You can print it out yourself for free.
Awesome. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Now, going back to these maps, how many of these maps are there?
It just seems like there's an infinite number of these maps. When I started in the days essentially before internet, these things were so precious. You had to go to every used bookstore and hope for a book that had, a bibliography, and then track those down through libraries and whatever you could do. But of course, there just seems today, it just seems like there are these new Vortex maps coming out. I mean, I'm finding new Vortex maps all the time. And I use the term narrowly and broadly because there's a definite, there's something in the gestalt, in the collective consciousness about visionaries and maps and mapping. For years, I've been very much focused on what I call Vortex maps. And very much on these maps that show geometric patterns of places. I've tried to narrow my focus. It touches on every aspect of the paranormal, of course. But for years, I've kind of been setting aside all kinds of other visionary maps. There's about 12 different kinds of visionary maps, I find, and so I put them together in a book called Supernatural Places and Visionary Maps. And Vortex maps are actually just one kind of visionary map. You could think of maps of the future, prophecy maps, maps of apparitions of the Virgin Mary as being a kind of supernatural places visionary map, geometric maps, maps of alignments, maps of star patterns. Those tend to be under Vortex maps. But you can find maps of places that look like people or mythical animals. The original visionary maps for us in our culture, the constellations in the night sky. These are visionary maps. And when you look at the landscape, you can actually see reflections of the constellations, both natural and man-made. So those astrological maps are another kind of visionary map, which I've kind of set aside for many years, but now I've just included in a new book I put together, Supernatural Places. And that's when your listeners send me an email, I'll send them a copy of that ebook.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Because you have quite a few books out, don't you?
I've written a number of monographs. Not all of them rise to the level of being a whole book. And they're all approaching vortexes from a little different angle. What we experience, what tools we could use, what we'll find. So I'm currently putting those all together into kind of a master work that'll include them all.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And where can our listeners, where can they follow you on social media? Do you want to give your website information out? They can look up information on you there.
Are we that close to the end? How sad.
I know. We're getting there.
It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk about my favorite subject.
Yes, absolutely.
Your listeners can find all kinds of information, free sample chapters of my books, etc., at vortexmaps.com. And again, my email address I use is ask at danshaw.com. And part of the way that I do Vortex research is through hearing from people through email. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll answer every email. I don't have all the answers, but you may ask me anything. I'm still engaged in this subject because it remains a mystery.
Right.
And I don't have all the answers, and I learn something every day.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has something to teach me about their local place, and it's a continuous voyage of discovery.
Yes. I mean, all of this, anything is a mystery. I don't know if we'll ever know all the answers to anything in this world, which is quite interesting, you know what I mean? But we can still continue to try to find out more and more things, but I don't know if we'll ever get to the point where we find out everything. It's just...
Well, I think curiosity is a mark of wisdom, right?
Yep.
We don't pretend that we've got all the answers, so we're
Exactly.
still curious.
Yep.
We're still investigating, and there's obviously there's more than meets the eye. We've got to scratch below the surface. So,
Right.
Thanks for doing your part for that, and I hope
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
just the awareness of the influence that the place can play
Mm-hmm.
on the phenomena there, that when you visit these places, that you'll take maybe a little more geographic look at the place and like what makes this place stand out from the surrounding place. Did you notice that, the smell in the air changed, or the direction of the wind, or whatever it might be? There's these subtle and profound cues to why people were attracted there, and the way that this reciprocal relationship about how people do things influences the landscape, and then there seems to be like this reinforcing pattern that the landscape then kind of contributes to the phenomena. Mm-hmm. There's this landscape memory.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. I agree. And the next place we go to, we're definitely going to have to kind of hone in and check out our surroundings a little bit more and see what could be influencing that area as well. So it's a new take on this as we go on to these locations as well. So it was a very awesome subject, very interesting. We'll make sure that we post all your information on our social media as well, so that way our listeners can find you. Do you have anything on YouTube or anything like that, or?
I do at vortexmaps.com and danshaw.com. You can click through to my YouTube channel, where I do have hundreds of videos, but only a fraction of them, about 10%, are Vortex related. And then I have a number of podcasts, so 20 hours or so of podcasts at anchor.fm.
Awesome.
And every podcast brings out a little different flavor depending on who I'm talking to. So
Right. Yep. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. Now,
Yeah.
when you figure out what your next target is, your next location that you're going to investigate, go ahead and send me, an address, and I'll go ahead and look at it.
Okay.
Even from a map, from the air, there's much you can discern.
Okay.
Just in the pattern of the way the landscape is and the way the trees grow and that kind of thing. And I'll see if I can suggest to you, maybe it'll be before you go to the place, and then again after. I'll see what we can identify from a geophysical vortex standpoint about what might be contributing factors, and even where the energetic spots on the property seem to be.
Okay.
Same as I would do for any kind of a landscape analysis that I do for the general public.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, because actually on the 31st we're going to be heading out to a location, so I'll have to get you that information so that way you can kind of check it out. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what we find.
Yeah, because I mean this place has got some. We've been there before, but it's different, and it's different every time you go there. So it'll be interesting to see what what you think by doing it. Looking at it geographically. So it'll be very cool. I can't wait for that. So I'll have to get you the information on that. So
Do.
See what you think. Yeah, absolutely will. Once again, I'd like to thank our awesome guest, Dan Shaw, for being on the show. It was very awesome. Like I said, this was a new topic for our show, so it was very awesome. I know everybody's going to enjoy it, so can't wait for everybody to hear it. But then, like I said, next Thursday we'll be back on. So every Thursday, 8-7 Central on Spreaker. So make sure you guys all tune in, and we'll get all of Dan's information posted on our social media as well, so you guys can find him, check him out, email him, get those free ebooks. Very awesome. Thank you very much. Very awesome topic. And like I said, I can't wait to see what you think about this location that we're going to be going to. So
Great. Thanks so much.
yes, thank you.
Okay, bye now.
Thank you for listening to REP Paranormal and Friends. Be sure to check out Kim and Allison on Facebook at REP Paranormal Busters.